Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune.Training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune. The Steve and Adam Show with Steve and Adam, and hey, we
That's
got
a
special
change.
gue's. I know. Hey, Steve, where you been, man?
It's been a while, Adam.
You got evil Steve lurking over your shoulder. Like it. It's good. And we have special guests today. We have Bob and Martin, who are from the Office Ranger team, which is phenomenal. You guys have like this cool subtitle. So, guys, introduce yourselves and let's get going.
Yeah, I'll go first. Bob Clements, as you mentioned, Office Ranger at Microsoft. I'm kind of a fresh fish in terms of the Microsoft pond, so I've been here for a couple of years now. But yeah, Office Rangers are essentially part of the Office product group. We focus on customer experience mostly, and a lot of the areas around Office deployment and manageability, servicing, and modern. Anything. Modern's the buzzword, right? So modern everything.
Oh yeah.
And that's Martin. I'm based in Europe, so I'm also a ranger covering these time zones over here. And the ranger team inside the Office engineering group is the team which is working with customers every day. So Office engineering is kind of building a new feature, and then we engage with customers, helping them to adopt the feature, implement the feature, discover any issues, collect feedback, and so be able to directly bring it back into the engineering groups. So that's what we're doing every day.
So would you guys say that you are like basically a type of the are you a branch of the fast track team, or is it a different type of function?
I mean, we all started off like, if you knew the PFE title, I came from that background. Okay. Martin was in the consulting component with Microsoft, and we were kind of just like, all right, here's the four amigos. Let's drive them in this way, and we were kind of working with the group, and then kind of brought into the fold. So now we're directly within the engineering group. Fast Track and those teams, we work. I mean, we have relationships with all of them, so we work in parallel and kind of shoot for the same objectives and help customers in that sense.
So it'd be much the same as what we see in the enterprise mobility space with CAT, I'm assuming. Yeah. So for most people that would be listening to the call, they'd know what the CAT team is. By the sounds of it, the Office Ranger team is much the same, just with a different title.
Excellent. Well, so these guys have they reached out to us, which is awesome. They've been on our list of folks to bring in. If a couple of months ago we did a video where we talked through the config.office.com portal, which is the Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center, and we just did a first look. We started poking around at it, saying, "Hey guys, this is pretty cool," and we kind of got there because, well, if you're within Intune, you go to the Intune, you go to apps, and then there's Office there, and you get this cool, thing, but it's all the policies and things just look a little bit different, and it's like it doesn't belong, but it's in this weird place, and what's it for? Well, it turns out it actually links over here to this portal. And so these guys have released some new features since the last time we looked at this, and they also know how the stuff works and why they built things the way they built it. And so we're hoping to throw some curveballs at them and ask them some real-world questions. For my company, we're actively doing this right now, moving from on-prem group policies and on-prem, semi-annual channel to monthly enterprise and all of this good stuff. So we are right in the middle of it. So I've got some really fresh questions and complaints, but really some good things because it's pretty cool. So guys, take it away. We'll let you have the floor, and we'll interject and derail you at any point. So just be ready.
All right, keep it going.
Go for it, Martin.
There is definitely a tape delay, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So yeah, thanks for having us. And we have seen the video, and it became quite some visibility within the engineering group, and we were kind of curious, what is the take of people outside our bubble on the Apps Admin Center? And so yeah, after some time has passed and we kind of fixed stuff here and there and polished and created new features, we were thinking like, why not jump on and show and kind of do a quick tour around some new stuff and give some feedback, but some background how we, why we started and how we started. So that's maybe something we should start with.
Sounds great to us. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We're always happy to be shown where we went wrong and what we missed when we went through the first look. So,
as we keep moving stuff around, there's a good chance that you have to miss something.
And thanks for being polite.
The raw input experience of you guys, poking through all the stuff we've lit up is the best, right? Because we get on a call with a customer and we walk them through it, and they're like, oh, it's the guided walkthrough. But for somebody who's just totally green or just, you guys are familiar with the Microsoft ins and outs pretty well, but just hearing some of the comments and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, we probably should reword that a little or move that button or yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to give a shout out to Chris Hopkins from the Office team. After our video, I reached out to Chris, or I did the the file of feedback bug in the portal, and Chris wrote back to me and answered questions for me, and so I bounced some other ideas and questions off of him. So I'm pulling up my old emails I exchanged with him to see how many of the things I requested have been fixed at this point. So just be ready.
Do we need to have?
But hey, Chris, thanks for getting this ball rolling.
The feedback button does do something. That's important for people to understand.
It really does. Yep. So if you guys you want to bring up the portal and go through it, I think that would be great.
Yep.
While you're bringing it up, I will say that one of the things that it just popped in from the email list was there was you guys added a new role to Azure that specifically permissions this portal, and if in my enterprise I'm not a GA, so I didn't have rights to it, and I did have rights, and then it went away, and I started asking who took my rights away, and took a minute, and actually Chris was able to find the answer for me. So no, we've added a new role, and so hey, if you can't get here, go and check out the role in Azure to get access.
Yeah, I want to highlight that's the button that started the conversation between you and Chris. So for everyone, the give feedback button, and as Bob mentioned, it actually does something. It's based on which page you're on. When you click this button, your feedback gets directly routed to the right owner of this feature. So it's not going into a big pool, and then if someone is engaged enough, they pick one or two. It actually goes directly to the owner because there's a different team, for example, working on this subsection from the Apps Admin Center, then working on the inventory piece. And so you click on feedback and it goes directly to the feature owner. They get an email about it and can start working on your feedback. So to everyone, if you give us feedback, please do not forget to include your email address if you want us to answer on something, because we actually do come back and answer stuff. But we need a way to contact you. All right. Yeah. So I wanted to give some background of the Apps Admin Center, because one of the legit questions is, why is there another center? If you look at the main Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and you look at all the different subportals and admin centers which are linked from there, it's a long list. So you can go crazy with kind of the default admin center, and then you have admin center for SharePoint and Exchange and Teams. So why have you built another one? And maybe you're the guys who are in the Intune console the whole day or in the config manager console the whole day. Why is there another one? And that's something we wanted to share some feedback. One of the reasons is the Microsoft 365 apps, the classic applications, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and stuff. It's a suite of applications, and it's a complex concept to manage. If you're the admin in an organization managing the M365 apps, it's not just one app. We have different channels. We have different versions. We have different releases, sometimes called builds, sometimes called releases, based on which section you're looking at. And we have different support metrics. So kind of if I want to figure out which builds are supported and which not, there might be builds which are supported still in semi-annual channel, but already out of support in current channel. And that's something you can represent. You can represent in Config Manager or in Endpoint Manager, but often it's a lot of manual work, kind of tweaking reports, adjusting some queries to figure out how many devices are on a certain build, how many devices do I have per channel. And so one of the ideas around creating a dedicated Apps Admin Center was to reduce this complexity, to have one place where we get everything related to the Microsoft 365 apps together, and give the admin or the one who's responsible for the Office applications. So in large organization, maybe there's a dedicated person working on just the Office desktop apps, and then you have the admin working on everything else plus Office. So let's give the Office person one place where they can see like information about all the devices which are connected in one place, specifically built for Office. So it's easy to see the different channels. It's easy to see if a build is still supported. It should be easy to see all the different builds, and also get an information from which channel is this build, for example. For Bob and I, we live and breathe M365 apps, so we look at a build number, and I can tell you on which day it was compiled just from a build number. But for normal people, it's hard to identify from which channel is the specific build. So we wanted to reduce this complexity and make it available in one place to see all your instances. And we will touch on this later. When you look at apps health, how are the applications are actually performing? How do they feel today? And also update management, all in one place. And there, as you have shown last time, other things like policy management, or we have now the OneDrive sync pretty new in the in the portal. So all this one place, pre-built, tailored for the M365 apps. That was the vision. That was the reason why we started with this journey.
I like the explanation, and in fact, I look at in my organization, we made this change probably about 2 years ago, where we split off Office into our digital workplace team, and so digital workplace covers the whole M365 stack, but then my team's over desktop, and so we do the Windows side of things. So we're doing all things Intune, but there's an overlap. I mean, there's no way for an Intune person to just do Windows things and or other mobile things. But I mean, come on, Steve does some mobile stuff, but
not my day job anymore.
We have to we're complementary of each other, and there's many times where we have to call in the other team and say, hey, let's work through this. My project right now, moving to co-management, moving Office to cloud management, we're moving to the cloud as a platform, and so Office has to come along. And so now I'm having to engage their team to have them do this work for us to get us to the cloud. So I think that's a great move, because it really simplifies that person's role in here. Just go to this portal, learn this portal, manage everything from this portal. It's got everything you need to do the Office side of things. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, for me, I love the fact that I can go in and see the versions that are across my estate. So I don't know how many times I've gone into a customer where they're like, we need this version of Office. So, well, you're on the deployment ring. It'll get there eventually. Yeah, but you don't understand this new amazing features being added to this version of Office, and we need to have that visibility. And this is just awesome. It's easy, and we don't need to go and build custom reports anymore.
Yeah, and then talking about kind of across the plane, right? One of the kind of the unique characteristics, and we're still kind of tuning it to give a better experience from the admin perspective. But because this is a cloud service and it's purely driven off of Office app usage, essentially we're going to pick up the devices that aren't on your corp network, the devices that aren't on your domain, right? It's like you, especially from a work from home scenario, maybe you've opened the floodgates and allowing users to install Office on their machines with some conditional access in between there. But essentially, we get feedback that we don't want to see those unmanaged devices. We don't care about the personally owned devices, but it's like, well, you don't? Are you sure? Because they're
really should.
You should. They're attached to your tenant. They're going to have security vulnerabilities. I mean, you should likely be monitoring what their update status is, and ideally be forcing the updates if you can, in some capacity. But
so along those lines, I think the thing that is, I guess, different about this that makes it so everything when I'm looking at this as an Intune admin, especially when I initially went to the policy management, you look at that and say, okay, I'm just configuring Intune policies. And what's not obvious there is that you're not configuring Intune policies. And in fact, those policies aren't, correct me if I'm wrong, those policies are not being delivered via Intune. They're being delivered via the login of the user into the Office app, regardless of where they're logging in. So those policies are targeted to the user. And if you log in on your home computer with your corporate account, you're going to get your corporate policies applied to Office as you're working in it, which is a really interesting take on it. But it's a mindset shift, because everything else within Intune is it's user targeted, but it's really device targeted. It ultimately applies to the device. Yeah. The settings are on the device, and this is, the settings are with the user object inside your Office session, if I guess. And maybe I'm saying, I don't know how you guys say it internally, but it's definitely an interesting shift. And then you kind of go to the next piece of, okay, so now I've got my rings and I'm seeing unmanaged devices in the rings and are available in the ring or in the inventory, and like I'm going to target them. So how do I make sure I'm not updating the CEO's home computer that he logged into and stuff? And so it's taken a minute to kind of get comfortable with that change and understanding how we're actually going to impact people. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit and really talk about how Office and even like the update mechanisms and things are different in relation to how we do everything else with Intune and stuff?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So, I mean, you're spot on. Like a lot of the assignments and everything we do, like for example, if you're doing servicing profiles and you want to target an Azure AD group, which you showed in the last video is a feature we lit up. I mean, it seemed like something that a lot of people are asking for, right? I don't want to hit every device in my environment, and the filter controls aren't granular enough. So let me target a group. And with a profile, a group, if it's got users in it, because of the Office activation and that user and the way the licensing works, we can essentially find all of the devices where that user's signed in with Office. And then again, breaking the plane of it's a corp device or a personally owned device, it's still that org ID. And now the policies that come down from that are going to be machine side policies. It's the standard kind of Office update policies under the hood, but we're targeting it more or less based on the user. Now, if that group contained device objects, then we have to do a little bit of magic in the background. We're basically now looking at your tenant and trying to find, okay, let's try and find that device so we know what users are using Office on that device. So we come into a requirements base of those devices. If you're going to target a group of devices, they need to be Azure AD joined or hybrid Azure AD joined. You couldn't, obviously couldn't stick a work group computer in there because it's not an Azure AD, but even stuff that's not synced, right? If it's not available in Azure, an Azure AD registered device wouldn't work because we don't have the association. We can't see down to the user level on those. So there's some fundamentals there. All the Office Cloud Policy stuff today that you also touched on, that's all user targeting. That's all user-based policy today. There's a lot of interest in us adding machine side policy in that space as well. So that's being actively kind of reviewed and seeing what we need to change from either a UX perspective, but also how it lands to the machine. So hopefully we'll have, we can bring Chris in a month or in a quarter and have him share some more insights around that. But and then also we get a lot of feedback around, I'm an Intune admin and I don't have a dedicated Office team. I'm doing everything on the desktop. I support the apps and I support the OS, and I'm doing the Windows feature updates and whatever they're called next month. And it's like, okay, so you want to do everything from the Intune portal. You don't like portal hopping. So that's another item that's, we have Office Cloud policy inside of the Intune portal today. That's been there for a little while now. And that's basically just the same. If you create it there, it's mirrored in the Apps Admin Center. But we hope to have these other features also kind of integrated in the future within Intune for those admins that truly want just give me a frame in Intune with the RBAC controls where I can get to this stuff. The same kind of capabilities I already manage from an Intune perspective.
Let me select from all the portals and put them on the left nav. That's really all we want. I mean, I jokingly sent over msportals.io, which is
I've got it bookmarked.
Yeah, it's got all the portals in it. It's like, yeah, just let me choose pick and choose the pieces of those things. Because behind the scenes, that's happening many, many times as you drill into things. If you look at the graph queries, you'll see, oh no, this is actually, oh, I'm in Intune, but it's really bringing in data from Azure and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I look at it and say, yeah, it's coming. Probably it's doable. Somebody just needs to, do it.
It's kind of priority list, right? Do you want new features to make your servicing journey easier, or do you want to make it one less click to the portal? So yeah, it's balancing, but.
So let me ask you this on the servicing side of things. So we're running in this challenge right now where, so we're trying to move everything, all the things about Office into the cloud. So we've got group policy, we're moving that to Office policy. So we're doing one-to-one there, trying to make that happen. Then we've got the update channel. Right now we're using WSUS integrated with Config Manager and deploying Office updates through that. But then but we are on semi-annual and we're not ready to move to monthly enterprise. But I can't move my cloud updates to the cloud. I can't move my Office updates to the cloud without also moving to monthly enterprise. What's the reason for that? Why not have granularity on managing different servicing rings other than monthly enterprise?
I can take this one. I can see Bob is already smiling. So that's that's a question we get on a regular basis in our conversation with customers. So our long-term goal is to bring more update channels into the servicing section or the servicing profile. So we're aiming at bringing the current channel first. And then we're currently looking into how could we bring in the semi-annual channel. And there are two reasons. So the one reason is if we look at an organization using the semi-annual channel today, especially if you kind of look at mid-sized, large organizations, kind of 10,000 seats and above, they often have a complex process around deploying semi-annual channel. So it's not only semi-annual, in this case, it's often also semi-annual preview, and then they deploy the preview to 3 groups of users with a certain rhythm, and then they deploy semi-annual to certain groups in a certain rhythm, and maybe they want to keep a certain group of an older fork of semi-annual, everyone else goes to the most recent fork, and that's a fee or a complexity we currently can't mimic in the servicing profile. The servicing profile is just not currently able to have this complexity of having someone on preview, someone on semi-annual, someone on semi-annual N-1. And the moment we would enable semi-annual profiling, we would get these questions. How do I put people on a preview on different rings, on different forks? So that's why we are currently focusing on monthly enterprise and bringing the features in which are highly requested. So it's really, we work off customer feedback and see how many people have requested this feature or that feature or that feature. That's influencing dramatically the order in which we bring features. And there will be a point in time in the future where we would say, okay, now the feature set might be sufficient for organizations running semi-annual, and then there's a good chance we will enable it. So that's one reason. The other true reason is that we favor monthly enterprise over semi-annual. That's a very short statement. If you look at current channel, so kind of if you look 2 years, 3 years back, we had current channel. Back in the day, it was a coined monthly channel, but internally we always called it weekly channel because there was a weekly update coming to current channel, and everything was kind of brand new. If there were new features, there was only a short time frame for IT pros to identify, hey, what's coming? And then also in current channel, we release a new feature, but we only activate it for 50% of the people to kind of do some A/B testing to see how it works. So bit unpredictable, lightning fast. If you manage 15,000 devices, how can you roll out an update within 7 days? Or statistically, every 8 days there was an update. And then we had semi-annual on the other extreme, which is, and that's an important distinction, it's a stable channel, but from a code development perspective. So customers sometimes look at semi-annual and say, that's the most stable channel. And it's like, no, it's the most code stable channel, which means we don't change the code. You find a bug, we look at the code, we say, oh yeah, it's broken. Thanks, we will fix it over here in current channel, but it's code stable, so we will not fix your bug. So customer stable is different from what we call stable sometimes. And so we had this semi-annual channel over there where only every 6 months you get these bug fixes. You get performance improvements, features, and especially waiting for these bug fixes was a pain for IT pros. You find a bug, Microsoft confirms, and then it takes 7 months before you have the bug fix available. And that's why we created Monthly Enterprise right in the middle, combining the best of two worlds. And as of yesterday, we have more than 18 million devices running on Monthly Enterprise channel. It's, of course, mainly in the enterprise space. And it is working extremely fine with this monthly feature cadence, but getting bug fixes faster, just one update per month. It is a very good middle ground. And that's why we are leading with the Monthly Enterprise in servicing profile as well. So that was maybe a very long answer, but wanted to give you some background and insights why we created this way and why we created Monthly Enterprise.
Well, I'm going to say if you hold off on adding semi-annual just for a couple more months, we're going to be in good shape because they're not going to have a choice but move us to Monthly Enterprise because I'm turning off Config Manager soon. So
Yay! Go ahead.
Or at least updates from Config Manager. So so hang on just a little bit longer and then we'll get there. I think that makes a ton of sense based on the complexity you described. I keep looking at it and saying, if you've got the staff that can manage update cycles like that, like you described, but where you actually have structure where testing is actually occurring and bugs are actively being found regularly, then sure, continue to maintain that. But I've often found that it feels like we just maintain the structure for structure's sake and for no other reason. Like, when's the last time we actually found a showstopper that before we rolled everything out? We're not that company. I know there are companies that do this, but like we're not going to find the bug before it makes it out to everybody. Nobody's testing to that level. We don't have the cycles to do that. We don't have a dedicated team of people hammering away at code.
Well, nobody has a team dedicated to be able to do that anymore. And if you do, you're a very large organization and you're very, very lucky. Let's be honest. Very few organizations have a fully fledged working non-production environment that isn't also called production.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there's the, trust but verify kind of thing. And I know there's lots of folks that have varying degrees of trust with Microsoft because you get burned once and you say, dang it, we got to roll back. And now we're back on semi-annual channel again. And it's not great. But not saying specifically Office, but just, in general, it happens. And so I get, different companies have different needs and, manage the risk. It's easier if you say, hey, we've got some bugs, but we didn't know about them and we're just going to hang tight. Like, that's okay. Versus every month we're chasing different bugs. Maybe that's all right.
Exactly.
Well, and you launched the buzzword there. So rollback was one of the features that Martin alluded to earlier. So I don't know if you've been in the portal recently, but this is something like we just got out the door, I think last week, or maybe the week before as a public preview feature. And again, it's that whole priority list, right? Like customers that are ready to go to monthly enterprise, but they need kind of a safety net, like how do I, if something does go wrong and I'm a servicing profile, now I've completely adopted this new cloud strategy for servicing Office, like what's the story there? So essentially any admin out there that's playing around in the Apps Admin Center, if you have a servicing profile or if you haven't gone through this and you want to go through the initial first time run experience, get it lit up with a couple devices using an Azure AD group. I think you guys had one device in your tenant last time. That's
sounds
perfectly
right.
fine. But yeah, I mean, once you're in play here, right? So this is my environment right now, and basically, I mean, these have all completed. These have all run through the February rollback scenario or standard February patching. But if I did run into an issue, whether that's early in the deployment phases or later down the road, you can basically click the rollback button, and then you get a really quick and easy flyout. Lets you pick: are you going to do the full release, or are you going to do the security only release? And then type in the name of the devices that you want to add into the rollback. Right now, it's a pick list for devices, so it would be easy for me because I have kind of a standard naming convention in my lab environment. But moving forward, we look to make this a group. You could just target a whole Azure AD group and bring in all the devices you want in there. But so if I picked a device and said rollback, the cloud service is basically next time that device is online and we can reach it, we're going to send down instructions to say, okay, your targeted version is now this build. And the benefits here is like there's no real payload going out to the device, and the device itself is going to use like a differential downgrade method. So there's not like a whole bunch of bits. We're not reinstalling Office or anything like that. And from a user perspective, they will get some interaction because, if you've done anything with M365 apps, it'll like this, it'll basically prompt like it's trying to install an update, even though we're rolling back. So the user will get the kind of standard update notification process. And next time they restart their apps, it'll basically downgrade them to that previous build. But yeah, so you do have this available now in the portal, and the status just says rolling back until that device checks in and lets the portal know.
That's pretty cool.
So how does it?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you were head this. So how long does it stay rolled back?
You hit the nail on the head. So we bundled in. We call it skip, but basically it target locks it as long as it's in the rollback state to that build number until the next patch Tuesday. So it'll stay on that previous build, essentially enabling those devices to skip the current month's release until the following. And since they're cumulative, right, it would ideally we would have the fix in the next release, or you could start pushing out the next release. And
so how I interpret that is it's an assumed it's going to be in the next release, that it's going to be fixed, so it's going to be deployed. So probably one thing that I'll call out for our listeners that is super important: if you do rollback for an issue, file a feedback bug, raise a support ticket, because we can't fix it if we don't know it's broken.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
So to summarize, it sounds like if I have a machine that has gotten the February update and it's got issues, I roll back to January, and then in March it gets the March update.
We'll launch the March update. Yep. Okay. And in theory, you have the pause button as well, right? So if you're like, I'm not seeing any traction with this bug, I've rolled my whole environment back to January, they're back to stable. You would go into an unsupported scenario in this situation if you paused and then didn't do March as well. But at least you could essentially leave your environment at a lock state where you're comfortable.
It comes down to unsupported compared to can't stable. Work.
Yeah.
Depending on how impactful the bug is. So
yes, security might be one thing, but we can't. Our calculations are coming off a little wrong.
Yeah.
So while we're on this the servicing stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we only get one target, like one set of settings that we can then target, or can we make? Because like we've got an IT ring, and then we've got our general deployment ring, and we've got a different schedule that we want to target those with. So I want my IT folks to deadline yesterday. And I want my rest of my company to defer for 10 days before we get it. And I know that you've got deferral settings, but we can't target this to make more than one settings profile, right? Or servicing profile.
Yeah, so there's one. The design strategy right now is we have a servicing profile available for each channel. We've talked about why the other channels aren't up there yet. So right now you got one profile available for monthly enterprise. There will only ever be one profile for monthly enterprise. It's kind of like this is the profile that manages the updates for that channel, not for different profiles for different groups of devices. The ring approach, which is super common for, you're doing OS updates, Windows Update for Business, any of that. It's like everyone's like comes from that field and says it seems standard practice. When we first put this together, the current model right now, we do have deployment waves that go out. So you'll see that on the overview tab here with these bar charts. It's a pretty short chart. You're only going to see 4 waves here. I guess I haven't got to my 4th wave, or I'm not on the 4th wave yet. But basically, these waves are automatically generated today. You do not control how the flow goes out. So your IT admins, they could be in the first wave, they could be in the last wave. Obviously, a lot of feedback around that. So we are working on a new feature that'll basically allow an admin to customize these waves. And they'll do that by saying like wave 1 is this Azure AD group. Wave 2 is this Azure AD group. And then there's even a setting in there where you can define so many days between the waves as they go out. So you will eventually have control over that. If you're adopting now, or if you've already adopted, the model goes like this. It's basically 30% of the devices in your profile are on day 1, 30% on day 2, 30% on day 3, and then 4 is 10% plus or minus anything that hasn't been online. So as those, stragglers come online, we'll pick them up and then start getting them deployed.
And that's the day that's the day it becomes available, and then it still has the grace period essentially that you can set in the settings there. Okay.
Yeah, the day that we call them update intents, but so first wave, you're getting your update intent. You're basically getting a new target version on the device that says, okay, hey, March release is available now. You can start updating. But then, all the other pieces come into play. Do they have a deadline value? Are they in an exclusion date period where this wouldn't get applied? Those things will come into effect as well. So although they're getting the intents in those rapid succession, that doesn't necessarily mean your whole environment within 4 days is going to be patched, or your network's going to be like, struggling to keep up.
Sure. I had another thought on that. Shoot, I lost it. Oh yeah. So if so you mentioned, okay, maybe my IT folks end up in wave 4, so it's 4 days out, and like, what if I'm trying to test the thing rapidly, quickly? If I go into Office, can I do check for updates and on day 1 and just force the update to come, or will it still be stuck in the whatever wave that the machine got put into?
You want to grab it, Martin? Pass them all to you.
Yeah. Now you're basically bound to the wave. So if our system has decided, so the 30% which are updating on day 1 mentioned by Bob, that's just based on when the devices do check in. So the first 30% of all devices checking in, connecting to the tenant, saying, "Hi, I'm awake. Is there anything for to do for me?" The first 30% get the intent. So
what you're saying is my Asian machines are going to get it first.
Potentially, yes. Get up. So as an IT admin, get up early, get your machine booted early. Then there's a good chance you get the update on day 1. Aside from this, currently it's automatic. And as Bob mentioned, when wave customization will land, you will have more control over this. Kind of related to, can I stage or define the rings? We are also working on a feature that you can exclude devices. So it's a difference between saying, I want to have my finance department always on the last ring, but maybe I don't want to have my manager on any automated deployment ring. And so that's also a feature we're currently working on, that you can completely exclude devices from a servicing profile.
On that, is there like, and I'm going to ask a dumb question because I haven't gone and drilled into the portal, but on that, do you have the ability to sit there and go, my manager or my organization works from this time to this time, don't auto sign out during this period of time? As they go into a board meeting to bring up a PowerPoint presentation, they go, oh yeah, we need to restart Outlook or Office.
So it's a technical yes, but in reality, no answer. So you can exclude dates. So if there is a certain freeze period where you don't want to change anything on the devices, you can specify an exclusion date. But you can't go down to a time level of saying, I'm excluding the morning of the day or the afternoon of the day.
Yeah.
But this is where deadline comes into play. So if you set the deadline to, for example, 3 days, it works like this. The machine boots, connects to the tenant. Tenant says, yes, you are in one of the waves. You get the intent to do the update. The machine is downloading the update in the background, is extracting it in the background, and then is trying to apply it. But if I'm using my Office applications, it can't overwrite the files. And this is when it starts looking at the deadline value. And from this point on, it waits the number of days which are specified in my deadline. So if I go with the default, which is 3 days, my machine will try to apply the update in the background silently for 3 days or during the next reboot. And after this deadline, there are roughly another 48 hours where we remind the user several times there's an update waiting. You can click postpone here or click here to do the update immediately. And the last prompt is a countdown, basically counting down from, I think it's 2 hours. In 2 hours, we will close your applications, apply the update, reopen your applications. So yes, still my manager could be in a board meeting and then
you know what?
The countdown is at 0, but at the same time you could say, honestly, you had quite some time to apply it before.
Yeah. So I noticed, Bob, you went in there and you added that exclusion date.
Oh, you
That's
caught
fantastic, yes. But is that date the date set by the admin? Is it UTC or is it the client-side date?
So I'm pretty sure we do all calculations as UTC from the portal side.
Okay, cool.
But this is kind of an example. I mean, this isn't how we designed it, and that's why we're doing a lot of things around wave customization now. But once I walk a customer through this, they're like, oh, so I could, if I wanted to delay the deployment so I could do some testing, you know, I could just set some exclusion dates around my Patch Tuesday release, and they get creative. We don't make it easy. There's not like a reoccurring schedule or anything. You got to come in here and plug these in. But yeah, this basically would block out a week. Now at that time, Profiles is going to do nothing to those devices. You know, I mean, you're basically leaving yourself vulnerable to whatever comes around that state. But it is a control mechanism. And I think, Adam, you asked the question: can an admin go locally and do an update if they're in a profile? So if it's targeted by a servicing profile, we're going to land some cloud policies, the same policies that most Office admins are familiar with, the ADMX update policies. But we actually use Office Management COM with servicing profile. So when that lights up from the profile perspective, that also locks down the update now button for the local user. So if they're in a profile and everything's working as expected, if they go to the backstage and try and click update now, that'll say like controlled by an administrator. So really, if you have, I would say more probably like beta testers or something, or you've got your good users that are actively wanting the latest and greatest. You put them on current channel. And you maybe assign some light policies through Intune or something to kind of just make sure they stay on the channel, or at least have some form of a deadline so that they're rolling along. And that would give them the capability to update on their own and move at a pace that's, quick for them. But for your general users, right now, this is from a profile perspective, what we've got.
Well, I like it. I think it's really good. I mean, it's one of those like, okay, so we have questions, we got answers to the questions, and now we can just, at least we can explain it and let's move on. It's like, okay, you could add some granularity, you can add some more nice features and things, but I also have a really great way to explain what we're gonna get and what to expect, and like that kind of works too.
Yep.
Like I don't have all the channels, but I got this one and I can predict how it's gonna go, and that works.
I guess from a servicing perspective, because I think we highlighted 2 new features. Rollback's like brand new right out the gate, and we hope to go GA with that very quickly because it's been adopted very well. The other one has been in here for a little while, and you actually pointed it out in your last video, which was the group support. So this capability here, right, is the functionality that most admins will start off with, coming in here and adding some Azure AD groups to the profile, so they can start with a small set of devices or users as they expand. Still in preview, not because we've really made any changes. I mean, from the back end, it's been more just kind of monitoring activity. Anytime we're manipulating the target pool, we want to be very, very certain that we're getting very high success rates and everything's panning out well, and it has been going very well. So I expect to see the preview tag wiped from there soon as well. But
the text here says devices, but you've said devices or users several times. So essentially we can target either or, and I think you kind of covered it in the beginning. I just wanted to clarify while we're here, like that's the intent here, is that you basically support either.
Yeah, I think I still have a change item logged for a text update here. We're doing a whole UX change to this particular section to really make this more streamlined, collapsible sections and everything like that. But yeah, without groups, I mean, it is basically everything is a device function. So include all your devices, and then include devices based on the channel that they're on currently. And whatever those are, if they're not mech, we will move them to monthly enterprise channel. And then the other, filtered down criteria from there. Users come into play when you do a group. So if you move down to here and your group contains user objects, we're basically going to take the information we have from your inventory. And if you go into inventory, you can see all the users for all the different devices of that you have out there. And we'll do the lookups, and we'll basically drop all their devices into the profile for you. And those, update automatically. So if the user gets provisioned a new device and they start using Office on there, it lights up an inventory that shows John Smith is operating on this new computer. It'll automatically pop up in the profile. I'm assuming John Smith's in that group. So
awesome. I like it.
I would like to point out one thing. So the one guy in the WinAdmin Discord group who pointed out that we displayed the text twice and had the learn more hyperlinks both going to the same location. See, so this feedback was raised 1 week ago, and we already fixed it. So we are also listening to the small things, the small feedback items, and trying to fix them as fast as we can.
Yep, nice. Well, so shout out to the WinAdmins Discord. We've shouted them out numerous times, and as you may know, Jóhannes on our team was the founder of WinAdmins. So I know that they've had you guys on a couple times. So go check out WinAdmins. They've got some recordings from the Office Rangers previously. So yay, that's cool. Love those guys. So I had a question around while you're looking at this stuff. Last year I asked a question about an API or really data analytics and custom reporting and being able to get access to custom data. And I haven't looked at it in a minute, so I don't know, what maybe you've changed around that, or if you've got stuff coming. But what are your thoughts around being able to do data reporting on live data out of this stuff?
Pass that one to Martin too.
Okay, yeah. So regarding getting access to data, we had and have two common asks. The one is, can you enable us to export just all the entries? Because I think you hit it in your last video as well, that there was a limitation. It was not exporting all the devices. There was kind of a hard limitation when you try to export the inventory. So that's something we changed. Now in admin, everything they can see in the inventory, they can just write export into a CSV file, drag it into Excel or Power BI, and then go crazy with the data. But of course, that's kind of a manual way. That's not automated. It's not scalable. We are working on bringing a solution for an automated way to get the information out of the system. It might be MS Graph. It might be another API we will use, but we don't have an ETA for this. To be honest, I don't have a timeline, but it's a highly requested feature. It's pretty high on our list, so it will come, but we don't have a timeline. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's fine, and I want to say that whenever I was originally playing around with it, we talk about the F12 developer tools regularly, and definitely was able to find the API calls that are happening and all that sort of stuff. But then you try to pull it into Power BI and it doesn't work because it needs a bearer token and things. And so you guys have it locked down for some reason. But yeah, I mean, I think we would love to see that. And, from my perspective, from an enterprise look at it, it's once again, it kind of is the same thing you just described, or you described in the beginning around why you made a separate Office portal. Kind of take that and break it the other way and say, yeah, but I need to see this all holistically. I want to make a Power BI dashboard that has Office update information, Windows update information, I want to pull all the sources, because my boots on the ground folks they're not Office or Windows. They do all of it, and I want them to be able to see holistically, their whole estate, in all the metrics that go with it. So that's the thing that I'm looking for. That's the place that we want to be at. I know a lot of other folks have mentioned things around, they've got different SLAs, or not SLA is not the right thing, but compliance deadlines that they have to hit, where, hey, all of our machines have to be fully patched in 5 days, and that kind of thing. And being able to prove that, well, I don't want to have to go and export an Excel spreadsheet to get that data.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I heard you say it's coming, and you've heard so, but that's the kind of stuff that we're constantly seeing and needing within the space. And it's not just Office stuff, it's across the stack. Everything that we're doing, everything we're managing and moving to the cloud, we have to be able to get that data back out to be able to do reporting on it. And it's so, like, you have so much rich data there, and you've got the essential data. It's not we're not having to turn on a bunch of crazy inventory to get it. You're getting it's coming in through telemetry, and you're just getting it. It's there. Just let us have it. So
yep. Yeah, hit that feedback button, and all everyone that views this video, we'll bring it to the top of the list. And I love, actually, because this is something we always ask admins. I need an API. It's like, oh, can you give me the background? And what you laid out is like the perfect scenario. Like, yeah, I'm doing Windows Update for Business in Intune, and whether it's I need to report it to my direct reports, or I need to give it to my boots on the ground so they can see what systems they need to follow after, right? I need a holistic report. And if you were a config manager admin, now or 10 years ago, you'd be in SQL and you'd be writing that all up, and you'd have this report that took 10 minutes to run, and but it would have all that data, right?
Well, and probably a year or two ago, I started out. It's been a minute since I messed with this. I was trying to build the Office, Office and Windows updates dashboards, and the challenge was getting release information. Like, there's no feed that says here's my Windows release info from an RSS feed or an OData feed that I can consume that shows, build and the date and the KBs and just the base info. It's on a web page. So guess what? You got to go use Power BI to scrape the web page. Well, somebody keeps thinking that it's cool to keep redesigning that web page, and so it keeps breaking the report, and I finally gave up on it. Similar thing with Office, same deal, doing, scraping data off of a web page, and that's not data. That's just random text that we hope we got right. So even to that level, having a way to consume some basic info about just release info to be able to include in these reports is huge, because I can tell how out of date I am just based on release dates and things, and I don't have to make some random guesses at it. So pass that on.
It's a great topic, because again, like a lot of the admins we work with in different organizations that are adopting servicing profiles, they're moving to monthly enterprise and they're going through this. And one of the common asks is, I want an RSS feed or something that I can subscribe to, so when an update comes out, I don't have to go proactively look. It just lands in my inbox and says, these are the changes for the month. And even better, can I get that a week ahead of time, right? Instead of on Patch Tuesday, great. Well, it's already going out in my environment, so hopefully it's a good. But yeah, that's another one adding in there, both from a Windows update and a Office update. I'm actively working with the team that coordinates that, so I will definitely drop that Easter egg in there.
Excellent.
I'm going to add one on there that I think is really important for export, and we discussed it before we got on the call, which was the OneDrive. You can't export the policies at the moment, export the results to create work items. So if you've got, say, 1,000 devices that aren't in sync, being able to create how do we do an actionable report out of that? My customer may or may not have gone into developer tools and pulled out the API. But yeah, so this is where that OneDrive sync, it's amazing. Like, we found at my customer that I think it was 15% of their fleet wasn't syncing correctly.
Yeah, that's substantial, right, for data loss.
Yeah. Exactly, and we're doing a full migration, so we're nuking every computer. So it's like, you may want to go and fix this, guys. So yeah, I just want to call that one out. Like OneDrive Sync, I think, while I think servicing is awesome, OneDrive Sync is the one that's going to save you bacon, because it's going to make sure you don't have data loss in your environment. You don't have executives yelling at you going, so you just wiped my computer, and where's all my files?
Mm-hmm.
We are actually in the middle of cutting over from folder redirection to known folder move, and it is painful. It's not even my project, and I spent the last week writing code to trying to find the right code to write to find machines where KFM isn't turning on. It's attempting.
That report will tell you.
It attempts, it fails, and then it doesn't try again. And so my remediation is I have to have a script that goes through every user profile, finds where it hasn't fixed, and goes and deletes some registry keys. Come on. OneDrive should just take care of that. But here I am trying to do this. So like having a report that has this in it is awesome, because we'll be able to then, once we get to the end, and say, okay, look, here's where we're at. Because we're then going to turn right back around after we move people to OneDrive. We're going to wipe their machines and Azure AD join them, and so yay, fun. But knowing that the data is there and that people's KFM is working is cool. So I really like that.
We had a conversation with the PMs just yesterday around export from the OneDrive folder. So it is on the pretty short list, or on the short list for the next features to come. For this one, for export, I don't have a timeline.
Of course.
But it's a common feedback. They heard, they recognized, they are working on it. So yes, it should be there in not too long. So you can extract the OneDrive sync issues and then pass it over to your help desk or whoever has the glorious task to go through, call the users and fix their problems.
Delegation, I believe the term is.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
To people who don't have access to the portal.
So while you're doing exports, policies, it'd be awesome to export my configured policies, because it sounds like you're just taking our shopping list, so I'm going to give you what I want. But I filed the feedback for that one long ago.
Feedback below, and also on the portal.
Yeah, but one of the things I'll give you kudos on, and if people make it this far in the video, awesome, because they need to hear this. But what you guys have done with the security baseline integration into the Office policies is phenomenal. I love it. It is the right way to do this, because we love Intune, but dang man, security baselines are not great, and the experience there is not great because they're not integrated. You go set your settings in one place, and then you go set a security baselines in another place, and they don't know about each other, and then just conflict. And this is phenomenal because I get to see them all in one place, and I can very easily see that I took the baseline or I didn't. And that's wonderful. I love it. So kudos on that, whoever came up with that feature, or whoever, multiple people, I'm sure. But everyone, like the Intune folks, need to use this. They need to switch their stuff to use this model because it's phenomenal. Tell them I said that.
Oh, we
Adam
will.
Said.
And they're going to be Adam who? Yeah.
Who's this Adam that you talk of?
But you started that off with like you want to be able to export, and you mentioned you already opened up something on that too. Export all the policies that you've created and applied, right?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. According to my old emails here. Yeah. Good. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is heading in the right direction. Just since the first time we saw this, and now, like, the improvements are noticeable, and it's great. And I think you are achieving, like, I think what you described in the beginning, like you are creating a perfect home for all things Microsoft 365 apps. And if people aren't using this, you need to be using it. I had somebody on Reddit today who was asking a question about he was trying to push down his Exchange cache mode settings with ADMX injection in Intune. I was like, why don't you just go here and configure it? I don't know.
Don't do it.
Make a policy. So easy. It's like, it might
Different
be
places,
just 4 clicks.
Yeah. Well, because we also the Intune team is a separate group, and they do phenomenal work, and they have all the ADMX work that they've published. So we do have some duplication, right, in terms of like, well, I can go into a configuration profile and admin templates and configure a lot of this stuff. So there is sometimes confusion where an admin's supposed to go. Where's the recommended place to set the policies and how they get applied, and order of operations and all that. We try and sort it out and deprecate the stuff that's not recommended anymore. But yeah,
it sounds to me that the best place, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's actually to use the config.office.com portal, because it will apply to the user whether it's a managed device or an unmanaged device. And to me, that's a no-brainer from a security point of view. Like, I literally had a conversation with one of my customers this week around BYOD. And like, so how do we make sure everything's secure with corporate data? It's like conditional access and web browser. And it's like, yeah, but they want to use Outlook. And it's like, okay, well, this is where you can start going down that journey.
Yep. Follow the user, right?
Yep.
So I want to highlight something that it's weird. All this stuff is complex, and yet it's really, well, if I can figure out how to use my computer. I was amazed. We were troubleshooting this, and we're moving from on-prem to the cloud, and so we've got Office group policies applied to our machines, and we were trying to do a comparison to say, okay, well, if I apply the policy, how do I know that it got to my user, and how do I force it to sync, and how do I get it? And then the next piece was, okay, how do I know which one, which one wins? And what if I have policies that are configured in GPO and I don't have the same ones here? Do they just merge and things? And they work great. The thing I love about it was that you have it all documented right here in one page, and you just scroll down the page and you get down here and say, okay, how does it apply? And this was cool right here. You want to trigger a sync? Go delete this registry key. Wherever that is. Go delete that registry key, and when the next time you launch Office, sorry, it's not that. Sorry, that's where the next one. Sorry, I knew that wasn't right. It wasn't like right. Go delete this key and restart Office, and it will trigger a new sync, and then your policies will show up here. And what's cool is you added this nice cool cloud registry key entry, so now I can separate my GPO policies and my cloud policies, and they're both right there in the same registry location under policies at Microsoft. They're there, and I can view them side by side, and they look the same. The cases. Who did lowercase and all your stuff? All of your Office policies are lowercase.
Consistency.
Anyway, yeah. But it was cool because I was able to, I did the same policy. We did the number of Excel sheets that load on in your workbook when you start up Excel. So we had GPO set with 1, and we had cloud policy set with 10, and it overwrote, and the 10 won. But then we had other ones where we didn't have it competing. So it works, and it's cool, and you can verify it right here and go to the troubleshooting section. If you can't tell, I'm very excited about this because it was just easy. It was really easy to find the answers, and I didn't have to click 8,000 times to find it. It's just all right here. So it's pretty cool.
We work hard writing these docs, so it's appreciated that people are reading them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, these are really well put together.
Yep. So we have gone ridiculously long, and yet I still want to talk for another hour, but we're gonna have to call it.
Yeah.
But before we go, do you guys have anything else that you want our folks to hear about before we go?
I'll plug something first, unless Martin was. I mean, it's not a plug, but we do have. I mean, we're pretty frequent in our own little bubble on the Microsoft Tech community. Like, we publish blog posts and stuff out there. There's a lot of other M365 related material, but we do, anytime we release a new feature to GA or something, we try and put out an article there. There is also a YouTube channel, Office Deployment Insiders. Amesh, our manager, has put out several videos out there where we do, guided tours of the Apps Admin Center in a very well produced way. So if you want to kind of walk through this in more detail, anybody that's watching this can go check those out. But
we'll put the links in the notes.
I really feel hurt, but it's true. The well-produced way. I heard that. I heard how you slipped that in there. Because we have a video on the Office Apps Admin Center, and I'm just saying, I feel hurt by that
It's
statement.
golden.
It's
there's
totally
something about natural and production.
If we had to produce things, they would never make it out of the door.
Nope.
Here we are. So yes, we absolutely shoved that down in the comments section or the description below. And any other, the stuff that we covered, we'll put all links and everything down there. Guys, we cannot thank you enough for coming. Well, actually, Martin, did you have anything else to say? Because I think Bob just cut you off, and so I want to make sure you have some parting thoughts as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to call out. So if some of our watchers kind of wondering how does it look like for my environment, just go into the Apps Admin Center, enable inventory. If you enable inventory, the tenant will start directly communicating with the M365 apps. So everything else on the box, however you manage the box, will remain the same, work the same, but you will be able to see all this information. How many devices do I have? Which channel do they have? What is the security status? Without impacting the way you manage the devices today. So it's pretty safe. We never had a case where something was broken or broke because someone just enabled inventory. So just look at the data, go in there. It's one click, takes you 5 minutes, and you get all the information, and then decide if you want to act on this and use this and make it part of your daily routine, or say, yeah, nice try, and happily ignore it going forward. So that's maybe the one call to action I have.
Cool. And this is going to be buried all the way at the end, but is there special licensing required to use this portal?
Mm-hmm. E5, no.
I mean, why not?
Everyone upgrade. We do have it on the docs page, so we can throw that into. There are some requirements. I mean, we have several different SKUs for the M365 apps. I don't know them, can't ring them off the top of my head. Fine. Martin might.
Well, if it's on that cool docs page, we'll throw it in there. So that's awesome.
The most common licensing modes, like so A3, A5 for academic, and E3 and E5 for enterprise, are free to use this.
So it's the 3 series license and above, by the sounds of it, because that gives you the base stuff. No, that makes sense.
Cool. And basically, if you go there and you can't get there, then you probably need a different license.
Yeah. We also probably worth mentioning on that subject too is, unfortunately, all this is available only in the commercial enclaves. So I don't know how many viewers we get or you guys get that are, working in GCC enclaves. I know they speak frequently on Reddit about how they feel abandoned. We are working really hard to get a feature parity here across. I think Office Cloud Policy is going to be something that goes pretty quick, hopefully, and then the other features lighting up thereafter. We do want to have feature parity in those enclaves too, but for now, if you go there and it doesn't work in your GCC, sorry.
And I'm assuming that's the same for ViaNet and our good friends in Germany.
And in fact, it does say that on the docs page. It has a whole nice blue box just highlighting all the things. So if you're GCC, you're SOL. It's fine.
Yep.
Well, guys, I can't thank you enough for this, and we'll definitely need to do this again as you guys release more features. I think this is one of those underserviced areas within the Intune world, as far as, you know, people, it's not in front of us inside the Intune portal, and being able to use the cloud stuff. I remember when we first released it, I mean, we got a ton of traction around it and said, wow, I didn't know that was a thing. So, and actually, I remember the day I showed it to Steve. He's like, Steve, have you seen this? He's like, no, let's record. so it was really good. So thank you guys so much, and we'll have you back another time.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.